In the tunnels beneath Cirith Ungol, something impossible happens. Shelob, the last child of Ungoliant, an ancient demon in spider form who has devoured everything that crosses her path for thousands of years, attacks Frodo Baggins with savage, calculated fury, her venom, her webs, her hunger unleashed. But Gollum, he scurries away, completely untouched, not wounded, not pursued, almost protected. And if you've ever wondered why a monster that desired death for all others would spare the pathetic creature who led victims straight to her lair, you've stumbled onto one of the most disturbing subplots Tolkien ever wrote. Because this wasn't mercy. This wasn't chance. This was a pact. I've read The Two Towers countless times, and it wasn't until I really sat with this chapter that the full horror hit me. Gollum and Shelob had an arrangement. A dark bargain built on mutual need, ancient cunning, and hunger that could never be satisfied. Today, we're diving into the secret alliance between two of Middle-earth's most wretched creatures, and what it reveals about corruption, betrayal, and why even in the deepest darkness, the choice to show mercy still matters. But before we continue, if you're new here or haven't subscribed yet, consider subscribing, as it really helps the channel out. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. First off, we need to talk about what Shelob actually is. Because calling her a big spider is like calling the ocean some water. Shelob is the last child of Ungoliant. And if that name doesn't immediately terrify you, let me paint the picture. Ungoliant was a primordial spirit of darkness who took spider form and became so horrifically powerful that she nearly killed Morgoth, the first Dark Lord, the master of Sauron himself, the most powerful being ever to walk Middle-earth. Think about that for a second. Morgoth commanded armies of Balrogs, he corrupted elves into orcs, he shattered mountains, and Ungoliant almost consumed him. When Ungoliant drained the light from the two trees of Valinor, the sources of all light in the world before the sun and moon existed, she plunged creation itself into darkness. The Valar, the godlike powers of Middle-earth, could barely comprehend what she'd done. Shelob inherited this legacy. She's not an animal operating on instinct. She's an ancient intelligence with malice and memory stretching back to the Elder Days. As Tolkien writes in The Two Towers, but still she was there, who was there before Sauron and before the first stone of Barad-dûr, and she served none but herself, drinking the blood of elves and men, bloated and grown fat with endless brooding on her feasts. She doesn't serve Sauron. She doesn't bow to the Dark Lord. Sauron tolerates her because she guards the pass of Cirith Ungol better than any army could, but she answers to no one. Her hunger isn't just physical, it's existential. She wants to devour all light, all life, all hope. She is darkness personified. So here's the question that should blow your mind. Why would a demon spider who bows to no Dark Lord make a deal with something as pathetic as Gollum? To understand the pact, we need to see Gollum through Shelob's ancient eyes. By the time these two meet, Gollum has been transformed by the ring for nearly 500 years. He survived the darkest places in Middle-earth, the roots of the Misty Mountains, the depths of Moria, even Sauron's dungeons in Barad-dûr. The ring has stretched his life far beyond natural limits, made him nearly impossible to kill, and sharpened his cunning to a razor's edge. But here's what I find most fascinating. Gollum has something Shelob desperately needs, and it has nothing to do with the ring itself. He can move. Shelob is bound to her lair by her very nature. She's too large, too monstrous, too obviously evil to hunt beyond her tunnels. She's a trap, not a hunter. Her webs catch whatever wanders into her domain, but she can't lure prey from miles away. Gollum can. Think about it from a practical standpoint. Gollum can speak, he can lie. He can promise safe passage, offer guidance, lead travelers right into her waiting jaws. He's the perfect bait because he looks pathetic and harmless until it's too late. And there's something else, something the movies don't quite capture. The ring has made Gollum significant in ways that transcend his physical form. He carries the psychic residue of Sauron's power. Even after losing the ring, he's been fundamentally altered by it. Shelob, ancient and intelligent as she is, would recognize this. He's not just another orc or wandering fool. He's a tool, a valuable one. Tolkien only gives us glimpses of how this arrangement came to be, but those glimpses are haunting. In The Two Towers, he writes, "And he had promised to bring her food. Maybe he had brought it to her once or twice before, and she had eaten it. He knew the way in now." And then, more chillingly, already, years before, Gollum had beheld her, and he had bowed and worshipped her, and the darkness of her evil will walked through all the ways of his wariness beside him, cutting him off from light and from regret. Think about that phrase, cutting him off from light and from regret. Shelob doesn't just tolerate Gollum, her darkness becomes part of him, severs whatever remaining connection he has to redemption. But the most revealing line comes next, and he had promised to bring her food. She knew it and waited. And if Sam had understood what her darkness meant, he would have run away at once and Gollum's whole plan would have been undone. The arrangement is brutally transactional. Gollum leads victims to her lair, and in exchange, she doesn't kill him. As Tolkien writes, she had loved him after her fashion, but had not eaten him, for she had noticed he could bring her what she wanted. She even lets him scavenge from her kills. The text mentions he would gnaw the bones that she had left, after her fashion. Those three words carry so much weight. This isn't love as we understand it. It's the possessive appreciation a glutton has for a servant who brings endless meals. Let that image sink in. Sméagol, who once gave birthday gifts to his grandmother, is now gnawing on the bones of Shelob's victims in the darkness beneath Mordor. But here's what makes this so much darker than simple survival. Gollum doesn't just make this pact to stay alive, he weaponizes it. He turns Shelob into a tool for reclaiming the ring. Throughout the Two Towers, we see the war inside Gollum, between Sméagol and Gollum, between who he was and what the ring made him. There's that heartbreaking moment at the Forbidden Pool, where Tolkien writes, "For a fleeting moment, could one of the sleepers have seen him, they would have thought that they beheld an old, weary hobbit, shrunken by the years that had carried him far beyond his time, beyond friends and kin, and the fields and streams of youth, an old, starved, pitiable thing." Frodo sees this. He sees the remnant of Sméagol fighting to survive. Even Sam, who never trusts Gollum, admits he saw something shift in that moment. But when Sam harshly accuses Gollum of being a sneak, something breaks permanently. Tolkien shows us the exact moment. The fleeting moment had passed beyond recall. The Gollum personality wins, and the plan crystallizes. Lead Frodo to Shelob, let her paralyze him, and while she's feeding, take the precious. It's methodical, it's calculated. And it shows just how completely the ring has destroyed his capacity for genuine relationship. He can only use. He can only betray. Now let's flip the equation. What does Shelob get out of this? She's ancient beyond our comprehension. She's seen kingdoms rise and crumble to dust. She's outlasted heroes, dark lords, entire ages of the world. And in all that time, she's learned patience. When Gollum first came to her, and the timeline suggests this was years before Frodo and Sam arrived, she could have simply devoured him. One quick meal, but Shelob recognized something more valuable, a renewable resource. Here's how Tolkien describes her intelligence. Far and wide, her lesser broods, bastards of the miserable mates, her own offspring that she slew, spread from glen to glen. But none could rival her. Shelob the Great, last child of Ungoliant to trouble the unhappy world. She's not just an animal. She's a strategic thinker who even kills her own children when they become competitors. A creature like this doesn't spare Gollum by accident. Gollum doesn't just bring her one victim. He brings her a steady stream. Orcs who trust him. Wanderers seeking passage. Refugees fleeing Mordor's armies. All delivered directly to her web by a guide who promises safety. And here's what makes it perfect for her. Tolkien tells us that all living things were her food, and her vomit darkness. She doesn't discriminate. She doesn't care about alliance or politics. But Gollum gives her something her webs alone cannot: choice. He can select prey. He can bring her the most satisfying meals at the perfect time. But there's something else here. Something almost playful in a deeply sadistic way. The text reveals, Little she knew of or cared for towers or rings or anything devised by mind or hand, who only desired death for all others, mind and body, and for herself a glut of life. Alone, swollen till the mountains could no longer hold her up and the darkness could not contain her. She doesn't want power, she doesn't want territory. She wants consumption, endless, eternal consumption. And Gollum, in his broken way, understands this. He doesn't try to bargain with promises of the ring or appeals to higher purpose. He simply offers her what she craves, meat. This creates a twisted mockery of loyalty. Gollum fears Shelob, but he also depends on her. In her lair, orcs won't hunt him. Other predators flee. He's found a horrible kind of sanctuary in serving darkness. She keeps him in constant terror, knowing that his usefulness is the only thing standing between him and her fangs. But as long as he delivers, she honors the pact. It's one of Tolkien's most disturbing inversions. Companionship without compassion, partnership without trust, protection without love. Two creatures who use each other in perfect mutual parasitism. When the plan finally unfolds at Cirith Ungol, everything happens exactly as Gollum designed it. He gives Frodo and Sam the Lemba's bread, knowing they'll need strength for what's coming. He leads them to the tunnel entrance. And then, at the crucial moment, he vanishes into the darkness, leaving them to Shelob. Tolkien's description of what happens next is masterful. As they enter the tunnel, softly now, Gollum was stepping down, his long arms spread out, feeling the ground before him, his head bowed as if he were listening. Then suddenly he stopped, as if he had come to a decision, and he disappears. In the film, Peter Jackson gives us this incredible visual of Shelob as pure nightmare fuel, all dripping venom and skittering legs. But in the book, Tolkien emphasizes something even more disturbing, her method. Listen to this. Their age long she had dwelt, an evil thing in spider form, weaving webs of shadow, for all living things were her food and her vomit darkness. She doesn't just want to kill Frodo. When she strikes, Tolkien writes, he fell to his knees and then swayed and sank down, full on his face, and knew no more. The poison doesn't kill, it paralyzes. She wants to wrap him in webs, keep him alive but helpless, saving him for later consumption. This isn't hunger, this is cruelty, refined over millennia. And through it all, Gollum remains completely untouched. Shelob flows around him like water around a stone. The pact holds. The most revealing moment comes after Sam drives Shelob away with a phial of Galadriel and Sting, when Tolkien gives us that brilliant line. The brightness of the lady's gift did not help Sam in his despair, for there was but one thing left for him to do, and that was to go on. But while Sam makes his choice, Gollum creeps back. He sees Frodo's body lying motionless and assumes the plan worked perfectly. Tolkien shows us his moment of triumph. The precious, he whispered. The Master's got it. Gollum will get it back. Yes, the precious will be ours again. This moment exposes the truth of the pact. Gollum never intended to share anything with Shelob. He used her just as she used him. Their alliance was always temporary, built on mutual selfishness rather than any real bond. He was willing to sacrifice Frodo, his master, the one person who showed him kindness, all for one more chance at the ring. When Sam appears, very much alive and very angry, Gollum flees into the darkness. Shelob retreats to her lair to nurse her wounds from the elvish blade and holy light. And notably, she never comes after Gollum for his failure. Maybe she knows he might still be useful. Maybe she's just patient. Or maybe, in her ancient way, she respects the attempt. The pact doesn't end with a dramatic confrontation. It just fades. Neither gets what they wanted. Both are left with nothing but their hunger. So what does this dark alliance teach us about Tolkien's vision of good and evil? First, it shows us how corruption destroys the very capacity for relationship. Think about the contrast. The Fellowship of the Ring is built on sacrifice, loyalty, and genuine love. Sam carries Frodo up Mount Doom not because he gains anything from it, but because Frodo is his friend. Aragorn leads the armies of men in a suicide charge to give Frodo a chance, knowing he'll likely die. The Gollum-Shelob pact is the shadow version of this. It's what fellowship looks like when it's built entirely on fear and mutual exploitation. No one sacrifices. No one trusts. Everyone is just using everyone else. Second, it reveals how the ring corrupts not just individuals, but their ability to connect. The ring doesn't just make you selfish. It teaches you to see every living being as a tool for your ends. Gollum can't form real relationships anymore. He can only form transactional ones, and even those are poisoned with inevitable betrayal. But here's what I find most profound. This subplot shows us what mercy looks like in action and why it matters. When Frodo repeatedly shows Gollum compassion, when he calls him by his true name, Sméagol, when he insists on treating him with dignity despite every warning from Sam, he's fighting against the very logic that created the pact with Shelob. He's saying, you are not a tool. You are not beyond redemption. You still matter. And in the end, and this is what makes Tolkien's moral vision so complex and beautiful, that mercy saves everything. Not because Gollum earns redemption or because good deeds are rewarded, but because the ring is destroyed through a chaotic, messy interaction of pity, providence, and the twisted path of a creature who was shown dignity even when he didn't deserve it. Gollum bites off Frodo's finger and falls into Mount Doom. The quest succeeds not through strength or purity, but through the mysterious working of grace on broken things. The Gollum-Shelob pact shows us the abyss, but Frodo's mercy shows us the alternative and why it matters, even when it seems foolish. Shelob never attacked Gollum because she saw in him something more useful than a single meal, a servant, a procurer, a fellow creature trapped in cycles of hunger and need. And Gollum accepted this role because the ring had corrupted him so thoroughly that he could lead innocents to their doom without hesitation if it meant one more chance at reclaiming his precious. Their pact is one of the most quietly devastating subplots in The Lord of the Rings. It doesn't get epic battle scenes or stirring speeches. It's just two broken creatures using each other in the darkness, neither capable of real connection, both trapped in patterns they can't escape. Tolkien doesn't spell out every detail of their arrangement because he doesn't need to. The implications cut deep enough. This is what happens when the capacity for love dies. This is the shadow version of fellowship. And in the end, when Shelob crawls back into her lair, wounded by a light she cannot bear, and Gollum falls into the fires of Mount Doom with the ring finally in his grasp, both meet their doom not through the strength of armies, but through the very corruption they embraced. But here's the thing that keeps me coming back to this story. Even in this darkness, even with these two wretched creatures, Tolkien doesn't completely give up on the possibility of something better. Frodo's mercy plants a seed, even in soil that seems utterly barren. And that seed, in ways no one could predict, ends up saving the world. The darkness of Shelob's lair isn't just physical. It's the absence of connection, of hope, of the belief that others matter beyond what they can give you. And the light that drives it back, that's not just Galadriel's file. It's the light of one person choosing to see another as more than a tool, more than an enemy, more than a monster, even when that person is Gollum